What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. In today's episode, I'm going to be showing you how to get free plants. Not necessarily from the seeds that come from the plant, but the actual plant itself. This is a super cool method of propagation called air layering, and you guys are going to love it. So let's go. So behind me is this amazing blackberry bush. Now we've been growing this bush here for about the past 5 years, and the blackberries that come from it are incredible. Now we don't know the name of this variety. It actually sprouted up here from a bird just flying by dropping seeds. And it is actually a thornless variety of blackberry, which is incredibly rare. So not only is it very desirable from the fact that there's no thorns, but the fruit on it are incredible. So sweet, super juicy. Really small seeds in comparison to a blackberry. But also, the amount of fruit we've gotten off this plant this year alone has been probably about 1.5 pounds, which is amazing. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering why I wouldn't just take seeds from the blackberry. And you could actually grow these out. However, there's a long process to getting a seed to a fully mature plant. We're talking like 4 to 5 years to get from a seed to a plant that's fruiting. That's a long time to wait. But also, this is not necessarily going to breed the exact same blackberry as this. Why is that? Well, that's because these are actually open pollinated. That means that pollen from any other blackberry can cross-pollinate, and you might end up with a blackberry with thorns. You might end up with a blackberry with thorns, but really big seeds. There's so many different variations, billions of different variations that could exist, that I want exactly what I have. And in order to do that, we've got to clone. So with plants like blackberries, raspberries, even tomatoes and pumpkins, if you let the plant sit on the ground long enough, the stem can actually set down roots. Now, this is not the method of propagation that we're going to be using today, because it's basically just to showcase that plants do have the ability to set down roots despite having the root system way over there. The stem, if it's left in contact with the soil long enough, can actually start to root. Now, what gardeners can do is, take these really long stems, force them down to the ground, and then just bury them with soil, and eventually they will set root. But that can actually be really messy and can take up a lot of space. I'm going to show you a method of propagation that you can do with lots of other plants as well. You can do this with gooseberries, currants, figs, tons of other plants. I won't even get into all the plants because air layering, as it's called, can be applied to thousands of different plants. And it's super simple, doesn't require you to really have any long growth like this, and you can get tons of free plants. And the benefit to any type of cloning method, whether you are sticking the plant down and letting it set root, or whether you're actually air layering, is that when you take a clone, it is an exact replica. If this were to go to seed and you were to take the seeds and plant them, like I said, you might get one of several billion different variables. Whereas when you clone it, you're getting the exact same plant. Everything is exactly the same, 100%. All right, so the first thing you want to do for a very simple air layering technique is to find some good upright growth. If you have growth like this that's very horizontal, you can air layer, but it gets to be a little bit complicated. And just to kind of get you guys started, I'd love to show you the most basic form of air layering. And so all you're gonna need is just a cheapo plastic pot. You could also use a solo cup, really anything that can actually hold soil, because that's what you're gonna do, is you're essentially gonna take the soil, which is down there, and bring it up here, where it's a lot more cleaner, and you can actually take from a lot more different spots in the plant. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut it. I'll show you how you cut it. All right, so take your pot or your cup, and you're gonna cut down one side. And then once you get to the bottom, what you're gonna do is you're gonna cut into the center, and you're going to cut out a little hole that the stem is going to go through. Just like that. So you got your slit and the little hole that the stem is going to go through, and that is essentially going to hold in place when it's on the stem. Now, the reason why I like to use these plastic pots is because there are drainage holes. Now, drainage is really important because you don't want to cause things like root rot, you don't want to cause stem rot, you actually want to have really good drainage. There's other methods out there that basically have you use pre-moistened soil. You completely wrap it around basically in a big plastic, almost like a Easter egg. And it's like 2 little clamshells that kind of clamp together. Those are things you can buy online, but this is a really simple method that I've used for years and it works really well. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna take this, we're gonna spread it apart. And we're gonna push it around the stem just like that. All right, now the next thing you need to do is get some soil. Now I prefer a really good quality potting mix for this. Something that's gonna hold on to moisture pretty well because this is a small little area and it will dry out pretty fast. The key to good air layering is having a lot of soil moisture. Not too much that it causes rot, but enough that it actually holds on to moisture and encourages that root growth. So we're gonna take our soil and we're literally just going to pour it right into the pot here, just like that. So when it comes to blackberries, raspberries, they root very easily. In fact, they don't really need any care at all and they'll definitely root. But when it comes to other trickier plants, things like figs, you actually need to implement a method called scraping to encourage root growth. You can just put a cup with some dirt around the plant, make sure you keep it nice and damp, and there's a chance that it's gonna root, but the best way that you can actually encourage rooting is by scraping. And that's simply where you take a blade or your thumb, works on some soft plants like this blackberry here, and scrape away the outer bark. And you expose that green cambium layer. That cambium layer is what's going to encourage rooting. All right, so the trick here is to not scrape too deep. Just scrape off that outer layer there. Just enough to expose that light green cambium layer. And that's all you need to do. Go all the way around and then we'll be ready to put it in some soil. All right, and the final thing you can do to encourage more root development is by using rooting hormone. Now there's lots of different commercially available options. You can also make a DIY rooting hormone using willow extract. We got videos on that, by the way. They're a little old, but they still work. And you can actually use some rooting hormone on here to encourage more root development. Now, the reason why I love this method so much is because it's about near 100% success. If you were to take your pruners and just prune off this right here, you could remove a few leaves, scrape the stem, dip it in some rooting hormone, stick it in some soil, keep it damp, and you're gonna have 40–50% success. But the reason why this fails so often is because of dehydration. You see, this has now been removed from the main plant, meaning it's on its own. And the environmental conditions you put it in is what's gonna dictate its survival or not. And so if you're very experienced, you know what you're doing, this can be very successful, but often it has a pretty high failure rate. The reason why this method is so awesome is because it's still attached to the main plant. Nothing is happening, it's going nowhere. And it can sit on the plant with a cup of dirt attached to it for 2–3 years. And it's never gonna care. So as long as it's gonna take is what it's gonna take, but it has near 100% success rate when done correctly. And so all we're gonna do is take the cup again. Another tip is if you're using something that's really long, has a lot of weight to it, I like to go lower on the plant. That way it has a lower center of gravity and it's a little more balanced, doesn't sway all around if you're using the cup method. But put our dirt in there. There we go, just like that. We're gonna keep that damp. Now the final thing I know you guys are gonna ask is, does this need any fertilizer? The answer is no, it does not need any fertilizer. This is just gonna be rooting. Once it actually forms roots, you're gonna start to see the roots start to pop out the sides and the bottom of the cup. And you can also kind of peel the side open, kind of check it periodically, but it's not gonna be for a month or two. So once it starts to get roots, then you're gonna move it, that's when you can fertilize. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with a friend for someone you think could benefit from getting free plants. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed. I'm hoping to get, my goal is 50 blackberry plants this year from this plant. I wanna get 50 plants, and that way I can get this plant multiplied and growing so I can get it in the hands of more amazing people. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button and we'll catch you all on the next episode. As always, grow bigger. Bye.